Hey guys, this is Melly and welcome to a new episode of NitroNights. Actually, the very first episode after a huge Overtake.gg launch. By the way, on Overtake.gg you can go and rewatch all the NitroNights episodes and of course the very first episode of our podcast, NitroNights Stories, if you missed the live recording yesterday. And before we jump too far ahead of ourselves, it is time to look back on last weekend and all the Formula One action. And who's better suited to bring you this news flash than our fabulous Tom Deacon? So Tom, take it away.
Thank you very much, Melly. Yes, it's me, Tom Deacon, back for the NitroNights News Flash. So excited to be back, and there's so much to get into. So unfortunately, I haven't got time to tell you how I'm doing. I'm doing all right, actually. So, that was actually quicker than I thought it would be. Listen, I make no apologies about how excited I get during this news flash because we kickstart with the ABB FormulaE RaceAtHome in support of UNICEF. 9 weeks of battling out in a championship meant that there could only be one winner. And at the weekend, it was a championship doubleheader. One race on the Saturday, one race on the Sunday. Stoffel Vandoorne had a 1-point lead over Pascal Wehrlein going into this. However, Pascal Wehrlein won the race in New York and Stoffel Vandoorne finished in fourth, which meant there was now 130 points to Pascal Wehrlein and 116 to Stoffel Vandoorne. Wait, what's this? The race in Berlin on the Sunday was now double points. Unbelievable scenes. However, at the qualification, Oliver Rowland was in first place. Second place was Pascal Wehrlein and Stoffel Vandoorne was in third. If that was the way it would finish, Pascal Wehrlein would win. But cue the drama. Stoffel Vandoorne clips the side. Well, bit of wheel banging with Pascal Wehrlein. Pascal Wehrlein drops down to 8th and Stoffel Vandoorne moved up to 2nd. And that's the way it finished for Stoffel Vandoorne as he crossed the line in 2nd place, meaning he won the championship. Congratulations to Stoffel Vandoorne. No longer the bridesmaid, always the bride. Interesting enough, can I point this out? Stoffel Vandoorne only won one race out of the 8 and Pascal Wehrlein won 3. Make what you will of that, but it does say that Stoffel Vandoorne was incredibly consistent. Now, I think you'll agree the uniqueness of this championship is brilliant and I would love to see more of it. However, I feel like that's going to be unlikely with real life races coming back. We move on now to the virtual Grand Prix, which was taking place in the street circuit of Baku in Azerbaijan. I forget who hosts it, but they are brilliant at that. Anyway, George Russell was going into this, making it and wanting to do so. 3 back-to-back wins in the virtual GPs. And spoiler alert, he did just that. Lando Norris finishing 4th, his highest ever virtual Grand Prix finish. Charles Leclerc, well, he got caught up with his teammate Enzo Fittipaldi back at, interesting enough, his dynamic duo, the Baku Castle. Seems to happen all the time for Charles there. That was his downfall again. Now, looking at this, the championship, because there wasn't a championship when we started the virtual Grand Prix, it was just for the entertainment of all F1 and motorsport fans. But now there is a championship because everyone's added up all the points. And basically going into this race, George Russell had a 3-point deficit under Charles Leclerc. But now, after winning, he is leading. Next virtual Grand Prix will be in Canada. Who will finish on top in the championship that isn't a championship, but is a championship? Anyway, I think you get the idea. I'll see you at the Canadian Grand Prix. We move on to NotTheGP. And sadly, there was only one race due to servers. But take nothing away from the fantastic race that happened between James Baldwin and Cem Bullet-Bassi. It came down to the final straight, and Cem did just enough in that 13-lap race to win. Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc crashed out early. Not important. Let's move on. Exciting times in the F1 Esports Pro Exhibition. This race in Baku was a chance for some of the new drivers to stake their claim because the F1 Esports Pro Draft is coming up later in the year and they will hopefully, well, I imagine, be hoping to get signed by the F1 Esports teams. In particular, the Williams and also a debut for Jarno Opmeer, formerly of Renault. He is now signed with Alfa Romeo to team up with Danny Berezny. He had an incredible race and eventually crossed the line first. Lucas Blakely in second and David Tonizza, who had pole, finished in third. Moving on, Race for Good. This is a charity race to support disabled and socially left out children. The race was taking place on iRacing. It was a 2 tag team race, 2 drivers per team. We had the likes of Sophia Flörsch, Timo Glock, Danny Juncadea, and both Rubens and Eduardo Barrichello also racing in this. 5,000 euros was raised. Congratulations to both the winners, Jordan Pepper and Jason Evans. Jason Evans, you will recognize his name from the Porsche Cup. Right, I need a little lie down, maybe a little pit stop. It's back over to you, Melly. That was the news flash.
Thank you so much, Tom. I'm ready to take over, and you definitely deserve your pit stop because that was like the fastest news flash ever, and it Wouldn't surprise me if Tom is like clenching onto his oxygen mask right now. But guys, before we introduce today's guest, let's have a closer look on the upcoming weekend. The 24 hours of Le Mans are waiting ahead of us, at least in the virtual world. The first ever digital edition will be taking place this weekend. And to bring you up to speed in regards of 24 hours of Le Mans, we prepared a video. Enjoy.
COVID-19 has forced many racing events to be postponed. One of them is the legendary 24 Hours of Le Mans. The endurance race in the northwest of France is not just the most famous among them, but also the most notorious. But once again, esports steps in to save the day. The event will be completely virtual this year, on its original date of June 13th and 14th. The starting field looks extremely promising, with lots of big names from both real and sim racing. F1 superstars like Juan Pablo Montoya, Jenson Button, Fernando Alonso and Lando Norris will, among others, represent real-life motorsports. On the other hand, top sim racers like James Baldwin, Rudy Van Buren and F1 2019 champion David Tonizza will show off their skills. And these 7 racers are only a few examples on the long list of notable participants. In total, we'll see 200 drivers in 50 teams. Each team will include a minimum of 2 real-world pilots. The official 24 Hours of Le Mans Virtual takes place in R-Factor 2. To some, this may be surprising, as R-Factor 2 is neither known for mind-blowing graphics nor its outstanding online service, unlike its competitors Assetto Corsa Competizione or iRacing. But according to the organisers of Le Mans, R-Factor offers the most complete Le Mans experience, featuring every single minute detail, driver changes, dynamic weather, daytime change and pit stops. The game simulates everything drivers and viewers would expect from the real race. Besides, R-Factor's rival iRacing will hold its own Le Mans race on June 20th and 21st. However, the event is not going to get official support. Those who missed the thrill of one of the most dangerous races don't have to worry. The real-life version of Le Mans will still take place this year and is only postponed till the 19th and 20th of September. Overall, fans will even get to see their favourite endurance race 3 times this year.
Motorsports surely shows as much endurance as our Le Mans participants these days. It won't go down so easily, and what's even better, it keeps on reinventing itself. Speaking of participants, you just heard his name in the video. David Tonizza, our Formula 1 Esports champion, is now with us. Welcome, David. Thank you so much for your time and being with us.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
How's it going so far?
Yeah, so far so good. I'm really preparing the race, so I'm really excited to be part of it.
But before we jump too far ahead of ourselves, let's talk about you and your career in sim racing and maybe in motorsports before sim racing.
Yeah, I started racing go-karts when I was 3 years old. My dad bought me a go-kart, and then when I had to stop because of the budget, I started to race virtually. I figured out that there were championship with the F1 games, so I bought my first seat, my first wheel, and then I started to win a lot of competition, and I have been picked from Ferrari in the Pro Draft.
And I mean, you're driving for one of the most prestigious names out there in motorsports. You're in a team together with Charles Leclerc, Antonio Giovinazzi, and of course, Enzo Bonito. What does it mean for you?
It means a lot for me because I race with a lot of sim drivers as a teammate, but this time I will share the same car with 2 real drivers. And what are drivers? There will be, as you said, Antonio Giovinazzi, which is also Italian, and Charles Leclerc. So it's a really, really strong lineup, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And how does the communication within the team go?
Yeah, it's going really, really well. We were preparing the race in every aspect. Antonio and Char are really great people, so I'm finding really, really well with them.
Of course, you have real motorsports athletes, and of course, you guys are sim racers. Can you help each other? Like, are the real motorsports guys only learning from you, or can they give something back?
No, they can give something back because of course they drive real cars. So for example in R Factor 2, the mechanics are really similar to the reality. So they can give us really good feedback.
Yeah, and you mentioned Charles as well, and he's very vivid and in the sim racing scene himself. How is it to be in a team with him?
Yeah, he's a really great sim driver as well. He has a lot of talent. So training together is really, really good for both, because I can give him some tips and he can share his real life tips. So it's great for me.
Of course, you're going to race in a different sim. It's R Factor 2 this time. You were racing in F1 before. What's the difference? Is there a big difference?
Yeah, Factor 2 is slightly different from Formula 1. But I also tried different simulators, so I think I'm adapting really well to it. I don't really like Factor 2, but I have to train for this big competition, and I want to train for this big event. So I'm training really hard to get on the level.
How does your training look like?
Basically, we are training in every aspect, and so of course we wake up in the morning. We all go to the Ferrari Museum to have some training with Enzo Bonito, and then of course we are in contact with Antonio and Charles, which are racing from home. So we are training all together basically.
All right, so we talked about the differences between Formula 1 and R Factor 2. What can you take into R Factor 2 coming from Formula 1?
Yeah, of course, every sim has got the same base. So if you are good on Formula 1, you can also be good in R Factor, for example. A lot of things are different. For example, the braking zones and the accelerations. But it's a sim, so I can adapt to it. And yeah, you can struggle a bit at the start, but then when you get used to it, it's really easy.
The race is ahead of us. It's not far away. What are your goals for the race?
Of course, our goal is to bring the car to the win. So we will try everything we can to win this to win this big event.
Obviously, of course. Thank you so much, David. But before I let you go, you're going to be with us for a bit longer, obviously. But before we close off this segment, we have to head over to a quickfire round. So are you ready for my quickfire questions?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so keep in mind you have to answer as fast as possible, all right?
Yeah,
okay,
I try.
So what is your favorite car?
Ferrari, of course.
Who's the best racer of all time?
In my opinion, my teammate Enzo Bonito.
Nice. What is your favorite racetrack?
Monaco for me.
Okay. What was your favorite racing moment? Like your most favorite?
When I qualified for the Pro Draft my first time.
And the last question is, what's better, ketchup or mustard?
Mustard.
Right answer. Perfect. Thank you so much. I usually like my fries with mustard as well. People look at me funny, but I mean, you're a man of taste, as it seems, and you're backing up my choice. That's perfect. So, Dave, we just talked about Le Mans, and the virtual race will be a novum of the long history of the race. But now, let's have a look at its long-lasting tradition.
One of the most prestigious and well-known racetracks in the world is the Circuit de la Sarthe, better known as Le Mans. The track has a long racing history that started in 1923. Since then, it has become known for being the most prestigious endurance race in the world. Situated in western France, Le Mans started its legacy as the French Grand Prix on normal roads. In 1922, it was eventually rebuilt as a closed track, and over time, it became the circuit we know and love today. But it's not only the track that changed over the last century. The field of contestants also underwent quite a shift. At the start, only 33 cars drove at Le Mans, As of today, numbers have been almost doubled, with 60 cars participating in the 24-hour race. But Le Mans isn't an easy race. Of these 60 cars, only 41 managed to complete the race without mechanical failures. To minimize human failure, different rules were set in place for safety reasons. In a 6-hour period, no racer is allowed to drive for more than 4 hours. So it's not unusual nowadays that most teams use 3 drivers, and they swap regularly. But the biggest and maybe even best-known change at the Le Mans is something different: the start. In the past, drivers didn't used to sit in their cars at the start. They stood on the opposite side of their vehicles and then had to run to them first. Because of safety reasons, the start was eventually changed back to the traditional format. Until today, it has been an honor for drivers to prove their skills on the prestigious track, just like Fernando Alonso and Nico Hülkenberg already did in recent years, and for manufacturers to show what their cars are really made of.
And this time, David, you'll be able to show what you're made of too in Le Mans, the virtual edition of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. How does it make you feel?
I'm really excited to be part of it, and I think it's a huge event also in terms of competition. It's an historic event, and it will be also in the future in the virtual part.
So we heard in the video that 60 cars start the race in the traditional version, in the traditional motorsports version of Le Mans, and only 41 finished in the last edition. In sim racing, it looks a bit different. Usually the cars finish the race if the internet connection is stable or if not a big crash is happening. What do you think of it? Like the missing material component, does it take away something from the race?
Yeah, of course, you don't have mechanical failures, but in my opinion, it's not a huge problem because it's a great show to watch, and it's not 100% sure that you will bring the car to the end. So I think that it's still enjoyable, as I said. So it's really good to race in a virtual world.
All right. So endurance races are really exhausting, regardless if in traditional motorsports or in the digital version. And how do you stay focused over such a long time span?
It's really tough. You have to be focused for every single part of the race. So we are training for this also. The key is the mentality. If you do a mistake during the race, you have to think, okay, I've done this mistake, go on. And yeah, the key is that do not do too many mistakes and stay focused.
Is that something that our real motorsports athletes can help you with the mindset issue?
Yeah, of course, real drivers that have done endurance races are most used to it, so they can give us a lot of useful tips. But also real drivers, for example, Formula 1 drivers can give us really good tips.
I mean, most of the real motorsports athletes, for example, Charles Leclerc, are really enjoying sim racing, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really enjoying it, and they think the same as me. It's a great world to be part of it, and they think it's the only way to race when you cannot go to race in a real track. And they can also stay focused on training and do training when they cannot. So they think it's the only way to race.
I mean, it's just an additional discipline, right? It's like it's not that sim racing is competing with real motorsports.
Yeah, these days it has become a new discipline. So there are real drivers and there are sim drivers. Of course, a lot of sim drivers are switching to the real world because they are really talented, and a lot of real drivers are switching also to the sim racing world because they are also talented.
All right, David, thank you so much for your take on this. And thank you so much for this lovely interview as well. But before I let you go, let's have a closer look in our social showroom with a few amazing tweets waiting for us. Let's see what's the first tweet. Of course, welcome to overtake.gg. Esports racing has a new home. We launched the go-to platform to your greatest passion. David, what do you think about a website where all the information regarding esports racing are in one place, and of course a lot of cool formats like NitroNights and many more to come? What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea because if you want to check the latest news of sim racing, you can go there and see everything you want. So it's a great idea in my opinion.
All right, and then we have another tweet waiting for us in the wings. Racing games are generally divided into arcade races, simulations, and simcades. But what are the exact differences between these games? We break it down for you, and you can read the article over at overtake.gg after this episode, but for now, stay with us. David, what is your take on that? Where does a game end, and where does esports begin?
I think that they are both esports. Of course, when you race in a simulator, you are doing something more, but still a simcade is still esports. So they are two different worlds, but they are both esports. So I just think that.
Perfect. So the third tweet is waiting for us, and it's something rather nice. To celebrate the launch of overtake.gg, we're running a giveaway. You can win a brand new PS4 Pro and a Logitech G29. David, isn't that the perfect starter set for sim racing?
Yeah, it is. I started from PlayStation from my side, so everyone can do it with this giveaway.
All right, David, thank you so much for being with us here tonight. Sadly, only digitally, but soon I'll invite you over in our lovely studio as soon as the situation calmed down a little more. Thank you so much for your time and being with us.
Thank you, guys. It has been a pleasure for me.
All right, guys. And this is almost the end of our show. Thank you so much for sticking with us during this episode of NitroNights, the first episode after a huge overtake.gg launch, your esports racing hub with all information and everything you need to know about esports in general. And guys, it's been a pleasure. My name is Melly, and I hope to see you again.